cycling an animation can potentially save us a lot of time, so it's definitely something we want to learn how to do in Max. A lot of times we need to create an animation that needs to loop for as long as a shot lasts. Let's say we need to work on background characters just walking around. Well, in that case, we wouldn't want to have to keep keyframing that. We'd want to just go ahead and animate that loop once and have that cycle indefinitely. All right, same thing goes for even a fan. Let's say a fan that oscillates in the background. We just want to animate one loop and then have the software take care of the rest, because that can save us a lot of time. So with examples like that, this is why we want to learn how to cycle our animation. So let's go ahead and learn how to do that in Max. I'll go ahead and right click and open up the curve editor. Then I'll go ahead and select our engine control. Okay, so we'll need to go back to our custom parameter. Alright, great. So as you can see, this is only going to loop once. We can see that by looking at our curve editor. But watch what happens if we go ahead and now create an out of range type that cycles. We can do that from our toolbar, okay, parameter curve out of range, or we can do that from the controller menu, out of range types. Here's the one that we're interested in for this lesson, cycle. Let's go ahead and choose that and hit OK. Now you can see that the animation is going to continue infinitely in time. Great. Alright, let's go ahead and see what this does to the animation now. I'll minimize the curve editor and hit play. Okay, when we get to the end, it almost looks like there's a bit of a pop. And I'll show you why. If we head back over to the curve editor, we'll examine our first and last key of the cycle. We can see that the values do not match, and it creates this break in the cycle. This is a big problem because we can run into popping issues in our cycles this way. So something important we want to keep in mind here is that our first and last keyframes should be the same. So what I want to do in this case is go to frame 0 and actually delete that first key. I'll just go ahead and select the key and press the delete key. Secondly, what we'd want to do is take this key on frame 40 and have it match to frame 1. Or we can have the value on 1 match 40, whichever we like. But I'm going to go ahead and set this value here on frame 10 to the value on frame 7. Now we have a number of ways to do that. We could either just type the value in, or we can actually clone our keys. So I'll show you how to do that. If we were to go ahead and hold down Control Shift, and underneath the Move Keys tool, we can now go ahead and move this key and slide it over so it's right on top of the key on frame 40. And notice, it doesn't look like this, but it actually just overwrote that key, or overwrote that key, and we can see that by panning. Okay, so we just need to update our curve editor, but notice now we have the same key from frame 1 on frame 40. So if we were to take a look at our cycle, you can see that we're not going to have any popping at all. Now another thing with cycles is that you'd want your mid pose to be identical to your start pose, and that all depends on the type of cycle you're working on. If it's a walk cycle, you definitely want this to be the case so your walk cycle doesn't look off. So right now we could see by hitting play that the engine's going to turn more to our right than it does more to the left. And I kind of like how much it's moving as it rotates to the left. Alright, so what we want to do is go to the key on frame 20 and make sure that value is the reciprocal of what we have on frame 1 and 40. So to do that, okay, we know that our value is frame 7, so that means on frame 20 we'd want that value to be -7. And by doing so, that evens things out. Okay, great. So our engine rotation is looking good. Our animation is cycling. Now another thing you want to keep in mind is that you want your actual F-curve to blend well into the infinite F-curve. So at times it's just a matter of going to our end keys and flattening them out. But a lot of times we need to go ahead and adjust our tangent handles so they blend well into each other. What that means is that, let's say if we were to go ahead and take this key on frame 40 and pull up its tangent handle, you can see how we have this hump as we go back to frame 1. So to fix this, we'd need to go to frame 1 and adjust its tangent handle so it blends. Alright, but in our case, what we want to do is go ahead and flatten both keys out, so I'll go ahead and set those to auto. And if frame 40 is causing problems, well, we could just go ahead and right click, head over to advanced. We can go ahead and adjust this tangent handle either by moving it or setting it to custom. And notice that will open up our key stat, so we can go ahead and adjust the orientation by just unlocking, setting both sides to 0, okay, just right clicking on the slider and then locking that down again. Alright, so again, we've learned how to cycle our animations, and notice it's going to save us a whole lot of time. So if we ever needed to render this animation for 300 frames, and we needed this animation to cycle, this engine rotation to cycle, we can set this up in a few seconds, as we saw in this lesson.